Some came from public schools. Others, already working, were from local church boys' clubs. But for all of them, it was a unique opportunity.
For Edwardian boys, the idea of camping on a small island conjured up images of exoticism and intrigue. They were following in the footsteps of Robinson Crusoe and Treasure Island. And Baden-Powell wanted to reinforce this idea of being cut off from civilization and forced to depend on their own resources. So he didn't have them camp here, within sight of Poole, but he had them camp a mile away, on the wildest, furthest side of the island.
The native boys of the Zulu and Swazi tribes learn to be scouts before they're allowed to be considered men. When a boy is about 15 or 16, he is taken by the men of his village, stripped of all his clothes, and painted white from head to foot. He is given a shield and small spear, and he is turned out of the village and told that he will be killed if anyone catches him while he is still painted white.
Many Edwardians had only a superior curiosity about other races, but some, like Baden-Powell, had a genuine admiration for those they ruled.
Within British imperial law, there was a social Darwinist ranking of the nations, in which, of course, British were at the top, but there were recognized to be certain noble tribes, noble peoples, who distinguished themselves by their muscle on the battlefield.
Despite his admiration for some African traditions, Baden-Powell thought better of sending British boys naked into the Dorset woods. Instead, he'd arranged for basic amenities to be provided on a small campsite.
The trip was covered by a lot of the local newspapers, and clearly their editors were thrilled to have a national hero operating on their patch. This is the Bournemouth Guardian, and it explains how the camp was set up, and then says, "The boys are to learn how the experienced scout can find life wherever he may find himself, to taste the delights of wild adventure, and to track Red Indians." This being Dorset, there weren't actually any Red Indians, but there were pheasants. The idea was the boys had to track the pheasants, get close enough to them, not to kill them, but to photograph them, and then report back to camp. And this was a classic Baden-Powell technique, to relocate the thrills of the Wild West in the southwest. This is a set of extraordinary photographs taken on that first camp in 1907, and it shows the boys literally here taking part in the various exercises that Baden-Powell had dreamt up. Now that looks like a game boys would enjoy. Jump headfirst out of a tree and see if anyone catches you. Now that does look fun. Now this is a manly game. This one's called The Struggle. It does look quite peculiar, but it's basically people pushing their chests against each other. And it's meant to get the heart pounding, according to Baden-Powell. First aid. This one is called Dragging an Insensible Man. But in this case, it's a boy sitting up and laughing, which slightly ruins it. They're clearly enjoying being outdoors, playing games, dangerous games, and learning practical skills. When they were camping, Baden-Powell needed to collect the boys together. So what did he use? A whistle? No. He used this, which is a kudu horn, made from antelope, which he picked up when he was a soldier in the Matabele campaign in 1896. The Ndebele people use it for generating fearsome war cries, but it's very good for collecting together small boys.
Gonyama, Gonyama, Ivubu, Yabu, Yabu, Ivubu, I, Gonyama, Gonyama.
At night, Baden-Powell taught the boys Zulu war chants, and enthralled them with tales of his overseas adventures.
Once I went butterfly hunting in Dalmatia. Batteries had been built upon these mountaintops, and it was my business to investigate their positions, strength, and armaments. I took a sketchbook, a colour box, and a butterfly net in my hand, and I was above all suspicion to anyone who met me. They did not look sufficiently closely into the sketches of butterflies to notice that the delicately drawn veins of the wings were exact representations in plan of their own fort.
In Scouting for Boys, Baden-Powell concludes a letter that one of the boys had written to him after the camp. The most important thing that a great many boys need to learn is to look at the bright side of things and to take everything by the smooth handle. I myself found that a great lesson, and I shall never find words enough to thank you for teaching me it. And that ethic of keep smiling through became a cornerstone of Scouting.
Invigorated by the success of Brownsea, Baden-Powell returned to civilization and to completing Scouting for Boys. His original manuscript is now kept here at the Scout Association's headquarters at Gilwell Park in Essex.
So this is it, the book that launched the entire movement.
What, the manuscript for the book that launched it? There.
Gosh, there it is, handwritten. I must say, I thought it would be more organised than this. I thought Baden-Powell would have taken his own motto and been more prepared.
I get the impression that he was just jotting down things as they came to him. I don't think he actually sat down and mapped out what he was going to do before he put pen to paper.
I mean, these are the chapter headings here, and it says sort of, I don't know, chapter 3, campaigning, camp life, resourcefulness, colonial life, etc. Not terribly linked, are they? I mean, it is more or less, well, there'll be a bit of this and a bit of that.
Yes, and to some extent that helped the readability of the book. It's one of those things that boys could dip into and dip out of.
Yes.
As they fancied.
This is a bit he's just torn out. I think he's borrowed a bit of President Roosevelt's speech. And it's about the qualities that make a good soldier. And Baden-Powell's